Keir Starmer recently told JD Vance that free speech is thriving in the UK. He's very proud of it, and it is something that we will have for many years to come. Well, I think this case we're going to look at today proves without a doubt that it is not the case that we have free speech in the UK, and it is not the case that we have a fair justice system. The case of Lucy Connolly is absolutely shocking, and it is trending again today because Elon Musk has shared this photo that was put up on Twitter about her case, but also because the journalist Allison Pearson, who, if you guys may remember, was herself she didn't end up in prison, but she had the coppers come knocking at her door, 3 police forces investigating one tweet of her. So she has been really standing up for the people who have been, victims of this, police overreach when it comes to social media posts. Allison Pearson, she's been able to reveal a lot more details about this case and the way this woman has been treated that is just absolutely shocking. So let's get into that. So her article says, I heard the full story of the woman jailed for 2 years for a tweet. Her injustice shames Britain. An ugly social media post landed Lucy Connolly with a 31-month sentence. Her treatment is testament to our injustice system, says Allison Pearson. So first of all, let's take a look at what Lucy Connolly actually wrote on X. So this is the tweet, which Allison Pearson says it was without a doubt a horrible, hateful and deeply offensive tweet. It says, mass deportation now, set fire to all the effing hotels full of the for all I care. While you're at it, take the treacherous government and politicians with them. I feel physically sick knowing what these families will now have to endure. If that makes me racist, so be it. So she posted the tweet. This was about the Southport riots. She was, led, as many people were online at this point when we didn't know who Axel Rudikabana was. She was led to believe by misinformation that was going around that this was someone who had come here on a boat. I can see how set fire to all the effing hotels can be considered as inciting violence. So I can understand, because, there were a lot of tweets that people were jailed for which did not incite violence whatsoever, and that makes me absolutely furious. This one, I think, set fire to all the effing hotels, is to some degree inciting violence, but I think, when you consider the context of this, why she wrote it, and the fact that she took it down extremely promptly, realised that it was a mistake, I think it's very clear that the sentence that she was given and the way she's now being treated in prison, which we're going to talk about when we look at this article, is genuinely beyond belief. When you've got people committing far worse crimes than this, being given teeny tiny sentences or not being thrown behind bars at all, it very clearly shows that there is something messed up with the system in the UK. So a bit of detail about what happened afterwards. So she posted the tweet. She then took the dog out for a walk, had a think about it, realised it was, heat of the moment, anger, it was a silly thing to do. She came home, returned the tweet. Allison Pearson says it must have been visible for less than 4 hours, but that was enough time for someone to take a screenshot. Now, let's talk about who this woman is. So I've told you she is a mother of a 12-year-old girl. She is a carer to her sick husband. She is a childminder, okay? Children, they are close to her in her life. She cares so deeply for little children that seeing little girls being murdered really, really upset her. But the other thing is that she has a particular personal story which she has PTSD from, which meant that this story really, really triggered her. So let's take a little look at what happened to her. So she had a little child. Her child Harry was born. He was 19 months old, and the article says, as a result of atrocious failures in the NHS care, they lost that child. So after multiple hospital visits and Lucy pleading with the paediatrician to put the listless toddler on a drip, the Connollys took Harry home and laid him in a cot by their bed. They woke at 4 a.m. to find the lifeless body of their tiny son. Lucy screamed at Ray to do CPR while she called an ambulance, and Ray, who is an immensely practical chap, best person in a crisis, did his best, but rigor mortis had already set in. He tells me the horror of the moment never to be extinguished. There followed a bruising battle to get justice for Harry. Although the coroner found a catalogue of catastrophic failures at the hospital, it was not ruled to have committed gross negligence manslaughter, as Harry's devastated parents had wanted. Those doctors got away with killing my son, Lucy said. The Connolly's went on to have a rainbow baby 2 years later, a daughter called Holly, now aged 12. But Lucy, who received a diagnosis for PTSD after she lost her baby, never truly recovered. Hearing about the mass stabbing of little girls in Southport was enough to tip her over the edge. So I think we can understand, guys, that a woman who has a PTSD diagnosis from losing her own child, a woman who has a little girl herself, and a woman who works with young children is going to be absolutely infuriated and potentially, triggered and not put in the best mental state when she hears in the news that 3 little girls have been stabbed to death and many others given life-changing injuries. Okay, she put up a post that, as Allison said, it was silly and it was offensive, but she went for a walk and she took it straight down. How on earth can you justify this woman being thrown behind bars for 2 years and 7 months? But the story gets worse, guys, okay? Because the revelation we're seeing in this article that is pretty shocking is that she is not able to see her own children. So Allison says, as I write this, that woman is not only serving a sentence many legal experts consider to be outrageously harsh, but is being denied the opportunity for time at home with her family, which is granted to jailmates around her who are guilty of actual physical harm. You've upset a lot of people, Lucy, one probation officer explained when she asked why she was being denied ROTL, release on temporary license. I mean, can you believe this? This is a woman who's got a sick husband. She is the carer to that sick husband. She is the carer to her little child. I don't know exactly the situation with her husband, what exactly his ailment is, but I would imagine if she was having to care for her sick husband, that husband is not really capable of taking care of the child by himself. If he can't take care of himself, how can he look after a 12-year-old little girl? Not only are they harming Lucy by throwing her behind bars like this, but they're harming her innocent husband and her innocent little 12-year-old girl. I just cannot believe this story. Like, how is this not blatantly clear two-tier justice when you have got this woman not allowed to go out and see make a visit to her child and her husband, yet other people who have committed worse crimes and physically harmed people are able to do so? Do they think that she is a threat to the public? It is genuinely beyond belief. And let's just remind ourselves what actually happened and in the scale of this attack on free speech, because we're reminded here that 1,500 plus people were arrested in connection with this social unrest which followed the July 29th Southport massacre of 3 little girls at a Taylor Swift themed dance class. In fact, that's not strictly accurate. Mrs. Connolly, then aged 41, she turned 42 in prison in January, played no part in the rioting, but a tweet she posted on the day when those girls were killed was enough to get her arrested 8 days later. And apparently it was because of the material stirring up racial hatred. Absolutely shocking, right? And rioting, I do not condone rioting, but I think we can all agree that some of the sentences that were handed out were unduly harsh. You had people, we had that guy died in prison, suspected to have killed himself in prison because he was thrown behind bars because he held a silly sign and shouted at a police officer, right? He wasn't one of the ones setting fire to things and throwing bricks. He just shouted at a police officer and held up a sign, which I think was talking about like the WEF and whatnot. So it is a really messed up situation that we are in. So Keir Starmer, he is an outright liar when he says to JD Vance that we have free speech in the UK, because this woman is behind bars simply for a social media post that she wrote when her PTSD was flared up and she deleted it a few hours later. It is a bonkers world we are living in. Anyway, I'm Chloe Dobbs. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe to the Reason channel if you've not already.